Hello, everybody. We have a very special interview today with a very special man. His name is Jarrod. He's the Chief Operating Officer at the Light System of the Light System Technology, and he has some incredible things to share with us. But before that, my intention of hosting this conversation, this podcast, this interview is to get some on the ground experiences from Jarrod himself, what he's seen, and of course, just set a foundation of who Jarrod is. So, first and foremost, Jarrod, thank you very much for giving us your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Of course, it's great to have you. So, there's a lot that we could talk about, but before that, I'm sure that some people know you, some people don't, and you're going to be introduced to a whole new audience of people today. So, I'd like for you to give a background of who you are, what your background is. I know that what you do today, you're so passionate about because it connects to a lot of the things that you've gone through over the past few decades throughout your life. And you're a warrior. You've gone through a lot and you've been extremely, extremely resilient through it all. So let's start from the very beginning. Who are you? What shaped you into the man that you are today?
Yeah, I mean, easy answer is my dad. Well, my parents, both my parents, mom too. Huge role, loving mother. Dad and I were close. Dad left us in 2013, but we were very close. I mean, I would consider him one of my best friends, to the point where I almost asked him to be the best man at my wedding. Um, but uh, but he was a strong man as well. He grew up in a small town in Montreal, Lebanese background, just north of Montreal, a town called Trois-Rivières, or in English, Three Rivers. And it was a pulp and paper mill town. They used
Okay.
to joke about how stinky the water was because it smelled like sulfur. They lived underneath the power lines. So not a real good environment. I mean, it was home for them. It was home for family. They loved it growing up. Obviously, they had a great family. He had two older sisters and an older brother. He was the baby of the family. But nonetheless, the point of it is he grew up in a surrounding of filled with environmental toxins that he grew up in. And I'll get a little bit into that a little later, but it is kind of important because it helps brings me to where I am today and kind of the views I have today. So, mom and dad shaped me. Dad was big on treating women right, family first. Love thy neighbor, love everybody around you as much as you can. Have as much fun in life as you can, work your tail off as much as you can so that you can enjoy life later. And so I like to think that that's what I've done and that's what I'm aiming for and really striving for.
I
Um,
think I think you're enjoying life now from the looks of it.
I am, and again, this all wraps perfectly into where I am today. So,
So
uh, you
you're a very health conscious person. We've been to the gym together. You're 50 years old?
almost
Almost 49. I won't give you the 50 yet.
49, yeah.
You're almost 50 years old. You're stronger than most people I know my age. You have muscle mass, all natural, like nobody can believe. You're waking up at early times of the day. You have all this energy and you're working through it. And yet, from our conversations, you've had this constant theme in your life for to put it best, but also bluntly, death. There's been a lot of death. There's been a lot of disease in your life from very close family members, children, and so on and so forth. And I would assume that that connects to your passion today. Can you sort of elaborate on that of what you've gone through? Because I think it's very important for people to understand that.
Yeah, so just bring it back to work ethic, right? In my entire life, I got the job I interviewed for, always, without exception. And I always did very, very, very well. And my first career, I went to university. I studied agriculture and pursued a career in the golf space. So became a golf course superintendent at a very young age. I was managing a $10 million golf development, I think, straight out of university at the age of 21. And when I became superintendent, my first job, I quickly sat on various board of directors. So I was the Ontario director for the Canadian Golf Superintendent Association, the government relations director for the Ontario Golf Superintendent Association, and I sat on the IPM Council of Canada. So I was very successful, well respected, did very well. And then in 2010, I ended up working for an individual who was extremely jealous. And again, with my credentials and the job I was doing great. But he was, working every angle to not work with me. And so for the first time in my life, I found myself on the outside looking in, and it resulted in me losing my job. So it was devastating. But what ended up happening was my phone started to ring because of the person I was, because of the relationships I managed to build. People started calling me and asking me for help. And it wasn't long before I was extremely busy doing consulting work, and I hadn't been looking for it. So I thought to myself, listen, if I can get all of this work without working for finding work, what could I do if I actually applied myself? So that turned into a fairly lucrative consulting business. Started working with a lot of the top golf courses in Canada. The Toronto FC, for those of you who don't know, is a soccer club, in a professional soccer club in Toronto. They were a client of mine on working on their fields. And that led me into eventually the cannabis space in California. But to back up to get to your point about athletics and whatnot, in 2000, so that was 2010 was the first bit of wake up call for me. 2013 is when I lost my dad, which hurt tremendously. Um, that kind of pushed me in a direction that I realized I really wasn't that happy in my marriage. And so in 2014, started the process of getting a divorce. And when I did that, I looked at myself and who I was, and when I wasn't super happy with what I was seeing in the mirror, not just physically, but the man that marriage had created didn't instill pride in myself. She and I can't blame her because it's me, and I have to own that. But I wasn't super proud of the man that was looking back at me in the mirror. I wasn't. I wasn't living the life that I should be, and I wasn't behaving the way that I should be. So I knew that chapter had to close, and a new one had to open. So I contacted a close friend of mine who lives out in Vancouver. He was a personal trainer for Warner Brothers Studios, still does a lot of work for them. And I said, Tom, what do I do? I want to get into shape. I feel like I'm stuck now. And then I was in decent shape at the time, but I'm working out in a home gym. And he said, Jarrod, honestly, just go and hit something. So I Googled boxing clubs in Kitchener and found a club that was owned by actually a number one ranked WBC fighter, and started training with him. He hooked me up with his trainer in his gym, who is a Westside barbell studier. He spent time there. Now he's a trainer at On It. So very well respected, strong man at the time. He's not a strong man anymore, but very well respected in the business. And the two of them whipped me into shape. And so since 2014, it's been a massive passion of mine. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And by the age of 40, the owner of the boxing club kind of pushed me into the direction of entering a boxing tournament. Some of you might have heard of it, Golden Gloves. So at the age of 40, I got up off the couch and I fought in Golden Gloves. One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, because it wasn't just about getting punched in the face. I could always take a punch. It didn't bother me that much. But the hard part was having to make weight, not on day one, but you starve yourself going into the fight. You can't eat after you make weight, because if you win, you have to make weight the next day, which is unlike a lot of other sporting, boxing, or fighting, I should say, fighting sports. So it was super, super hard and very difficult to do, but I pulled through it. I walked away with a silver medal, and something I'm pretty proud of. And yeah, so the whole time athletics has been huge. I never gave up on it, and it's really, I think, who I am today, because it's hard, and I'll be completely honest. Although it's a passion of mine, I don't like it. It's hard for me to wake up early in the morning. It's hard to go to the gym. It's hard to stay awake throughout the day when you're working. But it's important because I enjoy being a certain kind of way. I started the conversation by saying I didn't like who was looking back at me in the mirror. I feel that was part of the process. I enjoy the person looking back at me now, not just because of the gym life, but because of everything else I've been accomplishing along the way since 2014. And I have no inkling of stopping that. It's way too important to me. It's important to my family, and it's important to my daughter that I stick around. And the only way that I can do that is by staying in shape. And athletics is just part of it. you try to eat right,
100%.
and try to take care of myself, and try to spend time in this wonderful technology behind me.
Well, I think it's also discipline, and that may give you a big piece of enjoying what you see in the mirror, because discipline is a very, very important character trait that most people don't have, and even if they do, it only lasts for a short period of time, and then they kind of relapse and go back to where they were, and you haven't done that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So there's discipline, and then there's resilience. With what you've gone through, maybe you can give us a background on that. I want to understand the power of resilience that you have, because I think it's an important character trait that people can learn from. And it's also amazing to see somebody that's running a company like Light System be an individual like this. And that's really a reflection of what people get to see in the technology. It's a reflection of what people get to see in the organization, the company as a whole. So let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. Getting down and wallowing in self-pity is a colossal waste of time. It is so easy. It is so easy. And as we start to talk about, how easy it would have been for me, you'll start to understand, just how easy it could have been. So to recap, 2010, lose my job, 2013, lose my dad, 2014, divorce. That took me, through the consulting, building a successful consulting business, took me to California, where I entered the cannabis space, and had a blast doing that. My daughters would come down and visit me. I was commuting back and forth, just so you know, from Toronto to California on a weekly basis. Hop in on a red eye Friday night, pick up my daughters 10 a.m. in the morning. Spend 4 days with them, fly out at 6 a.m. from the airport that was 2 hours away from my home. So
Wow.
I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning to be in the boardroom at 10 a.m. in California. And I did that for 4 years, and it was exhausting. But regardless, it was important because I was building something very, very important to me, and really a legacy for my family that I was extremely excited and passionate about. But then in 2018, on a family vacation, we were out boating, in a lake in Southern California. My wife and I were on a tube being pulled by the boat, having an absolute blast. The boat driver was doing his best to get us off the tube, as part of tubing is. And he did. We went flying, and I came up. She's not as strong of a swimmer as I am. I made sure she was okay. We're laughing hysterically. And then we saw the wife of the person driving the boat swimming towards us, and yelling, "She's gone! She's gone!" We noticed she was holding a life jacket, and it turned out that my eldest daughter, who was 12 at the time when the boat stopped, she went over the edge, and went underneath the boat, and the propeller got her in the back of the head, ripped her life jacket off, and we didn't see her again for 4 days until they finally found her. Um, this was in 2018. It's 2025. I'm still, devastated by it. It pains me to talk about and think about. But regardless, to your point, you can sit back and you can cry about it, and I do, but I don't let it stop me. And there's really no point. I have another beautiful little girl at home that needs her dad. I have a responsibility to her, and I have a responsibility to my new wife now, to be the man that I need to be, to provide for them and to protect them. And so that's what I do every day. I wake up with that in mind. Yeah, I'll save the rest for another day. But yeah, being on that side of things, and losing a child is a very, very, very small club. I don't enjoy being in it. There's a lot of people listening that could probably relate. But it's a lonely club. But it's one that again, you can wallow in self pity, or you can understand that it shapes you into the person that you become today. So and that has tremendously. So we I think I went back to work. I went home with her, flew her home from California to Toronto for the funeral. I think I was off work for about a week. I left my wife at home in Toronto, and I flew back to California to get back to work. I kind of needed a little bit of alone time. And I walked into the boardroom. I had my staff around the table, and in my absence, things hadn't gone quite as well as I had hoped. And I started at one end of the boardroom table. I went all the way around it and up the other end, and I just laid into every single one of them. I had three or four of them in tears. And I looked at the room and I became disgusted with myself. I apologized. I broke down in tears. And I realized I wasn't ready to be at work. So where I thought I was doing the right thing by getting back on the horse, I wasn't ready to process, everything going on in the business and running accordingly. So I exited. I took another few days off and came back stronger and better than ever. The unfortunate thing was, my cousin, who I was business partners with at the time, I developed a bit of a habit. Two habits really. He enjoyed gambling and he enjoyed what the kids call it now, booger sugar. But he partook in a fair bit of drugs, and I knew it was happening, but being there, I was able to manage it, and I was able to make sure that it stayed in control. Unfortunately, when COVID hit, and the border shut down, I had a decision to make: go home and be with my family in Toronto, or stay in California and run the business. And for me, family first. As I said earlier, I had to be home with my daughter. I knew that with a 2 week quarantine with traveling, that my wife would never let me see my daughter. She would always enforce that 2 week quarantine, and I would just never get to see her. So it wasn't worth it. I managed to run the business for a better part of a year remotely, but in doing so, I was no longer able to keep my eye on my cousin, and he started selling off assets and to fund his habits. And by the end of it, everything was gone. He had sold everything out from under me. I walked away with very, very little. I even had a beautiful, classic Toyota, 1967 Toyota FJ, that he was supposed to be looking out for me. But he abandoned our office, got towed, DMV confiscated, sold the bloody thing for $2,500 at a lien auction, lien sale, which was devastating. But again, I'm sitting now back in Toronto, pissed off at the world. My wife is pissed off because we lost the car. And I'm just thinking, do I catch a break? When is this going to happen? But what are you going to do, right? I have a house, I have bills to pay, and everything else. And through all this, a common theme is I've always managed to build relationships, and I understand the importance of relationships, and I hold them all very dear to my heart. And they always seem to amount to something, and always seem to help, especially when you need them most. And so I was able to leverage several relationships and took a job working for a healthcare company, basically placing international nurses into hospitals in Canada. And that really wasn't my bag and didn't work out. And the owner of the company ended up being not a very nice man. He's been in the newspapers and everything for what he did for the talent. But and then started working with another friend who knew Jason and knew you, who put me in touch with you. And I think at the time you had asked me to manage the staff, and that's what I did. And I want to say 2, 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks later, you handed me the keys to the kingdom and just said, Jarrod, just do it, take it and run with it. And that was Unified Healing. And I really, really enjoyed that life. I enjoyed having, working in a community that was so passionate about helping people. People that now all of a sudden understood how I live, right? Relationships. For me, it's relationships. For other people, it's helping people. And when I say relationships, that's what I mean, right? It's about love and compassion and support and laughter and so now I'm in a community with all of that. It's heartwarming, it's rewarding, it's all of those wonderful things. We've built a tremendous staff over there that is doing, very, very cool things. And since that day, which would have been, I think it was May 1st of last year, it's been nothing but an upward trajectory.
Oh yeah.
And so despite um, all the roller coaster rides in my life leading to here, I am now more convinced than ever that curse is behind me. That all
So let me
that
ask
hard
you a
work.
question.
Yeah.
Why light system, right? We work together on unified healing, but
Yeah.
why did you choose and align with light system as what it does with the technology and so forth? What connection did that have to fulfill a purpose, if any, in your life?
When I was 12 years old, before my football games or before an important, something important happening, Dad would lie me on the floor in the living room and he would teach me the power of visualization. Right. And so at a very young, even Dad, he was not a religious man, but a spiritual man. And we would do those things as a family. And I never really bought into it. But now being, surrounded by, these things behind me, and understanding the power of affirmations. I mean, affirmations, visualization, it's almost the same thing, if not the same thing, right? You visualize an outcome that happens. You look in the mirror, you tell yourself something that happens, right? And so I align very well with that. I have, based on my athletic history, and it's not just about the gym over the last, 10, 12 years. I mean, I grew up playing, well, high level swimmer, playing rugby, football, hockey, baseball, soccer, jumping out of airplanes, bungee jumping, mountain biking. I mean, I did it all. I like to think that with all those injuries that I've sustained over the years, I've learned how to understand my body and learn how to understand how it feels. And I've always been very good at describing injuries to I won't even call them doctors, we'll call them practitioners, because I've worked with acupuncturists and massage therapists and osteopaths and even energy healers. So I thought it made me very good at that until I walked into this.
Okay.
And I listened to people talk about the energy that they were feeling and so on and so forth. And it took me a while. Um, wow, is it ever powerful? I mean, I walk through our 32 unit systems right now, and I get within a foot of it and I almost get pulled in. There's a heat that comes out of it that shouldn't be coming off of computer monitors. And so the first time it happened, I remember I walked over, I put my hand there. I said, what is that? And I got close to it and I put my arms out like this and all pins and needles and tingling through my arms and my legs. And it was amazing. And I thought, wow, there's something more than just affirmations. And I shouldn't say just, because affirmations are huge, and what they do to us and our body and our mental well-being is miraculous, if nothing else. But now to be able to be in a position where I can understand the energy transference and appreciate it and feel it, now it's physical for me, right? Now it's not a belief. Something that happened to me in March of 24. Well, I should go back to November of 23. I started to lose feelings in my legs, and I was falling a lot playing, adult like beer league baseball, and the kids were laughing at me because I'd fall. And I ended up going to the hospital, and they found that my spinal cord was severely pinched, to the point where I was flirting with the wheelchair. And so the doctor told me that I should go into Emerge. And in Canada, our healthcare system is a little bit different than in the States. You have to wait a long time to see specialists. But he told me that, listen, if you wait for me, it's going to be a year before I can see you. So go into emergency. My team will take care of you. And the thought of that disturbed me beyond belief. And thought about emergency spinal surgery, it was like a non-starter for me.
Scary.
Yeah. And back to relationships, I was able to leverage some relationships down here in Florida. And I met up with some fantastic people, that treated me in unconventional methods, for the better part of 5 weeks. Um, and so I didn't do the surgery. I decided, I sat in theta chambers. I was on quantum beds, and I did, some new style the chiropractic work that works through, sound therapy. Some really cool stuff. Some
It's almost like that injury brought you more and more and more into a world that you were essentially
never
going to
been
be
it.
making a
That's right.
movement.
100%. Unfortunately, it didn't work. So, so I went home and I did some spinal decompression. I sat on a bed where they legitimately pulled me apart for an hour a day, you know, 4 days a week for 8 weeks or something like that. And at the end of it, the doctor that was running that clinic was also a orthopedic surgeon. So he said, Jarrod, no more horsing around. Get yourself to emerge. Actually, he ordered an MRI. And again, for us, you generally have to wait for that. They called me within 24 hours, come down for your MRI. I went in and they said, go to emerge. So I went to emerge. Of course, they didn't let me leave. They did surgery, performed surgery on me, and now I have a scar, you know, that's more than halfway down my spine. Um, but I made it through, and I'll tell you something. It was the most severe pain I've ever experienced in my life. I mean, imagine laying in a bed, and every time you need to get up to go to the washroom, it feels like your spine is still on the bed as you're lifting out of it. It was torture, and that was 5 weeks, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day for 5 weeks. So it was around that time that I came in contact with the technology, and that went into my bedroom, which was also my office, and so I was around it and exposed to it for, I won't say 24 hours a day, but we'll call it 18 hours a day, and I started to recover fast, very quickly. I
What
went
were you
into,
noticing when you say recover quickly?
well, I didn't notice anything because for me, it just sucked. Like my body hurt, right? So I wasn't noticing anything. And I was down on myself because I wasn't recovering fast enough. When I went in to see the doctor or the surgeon, when I left the hospital, they said, no gym for 6 months. By week 8, I want to say by week 6 or 7 is when I came in contact with the technology. So there was a tremendous shift right around that time, week 6, 7, where I started to feel better. Oh, for all the kids out there that are watching, 6, 7, started started to feel better and started going to the gym. I was taking my time, but I was going to the gym, and that was at week 10. I started going to the gym. Um, and again, told not to go until 6 months. So at week 10, I started going. I went to see the doctor for my first checkup, and he said, Jarrod, don't worry about it. You're still young. You know, your nerves have to reconnect, and it will happen. It will come, but you're wearing flip flops. It was like, this sounds like nothing to you, but the fact that you can walk from across the room in flip flops is astonishing to me. You shouldn't be able to do that. To which I turned to him, and I think this was August. I turned to him. I said, Doc, I've been riding my motorcycle since June in flip flops, and he was just blown away. And so my physiotherapist also, I don't understand. I don't understand how you're like this right now. You should not be like this. So although I didn't understand it because I'm hard on myself, it was all the professionals around me that were kind of, really, really impressed with the rate of
They
recovery.
knew what to compare it to, so they could tell you that it's much better.
That's right. And there's the only thing I can attribute that to would be the exposure to the technology. So
It's really
by
nice.
September was now 6 months. I was in the best shape of my life. So, having gone from week 10 in the gym to not being allowed to go to the gym till September, now in September, I'm already in the best shape of my life. Maybe not physically. I mean, I have numbness in my legs still. But in terms of physicality, like how I looked and body fat percentage and everything like that, I got myself to a place where I was in better shape than I was in my 40s. And at the time, I was 48. So again, this stuff behind me is just mind blowing how it works, and those that have experienced it, understand what I'm saying, and those that don't or haven't experienced it, I really hope you get a chance to, because it is mind blowing how it works once you start to understand your body and your body mechanics and your body sensations, and you start to be able to feel it physically and not just mentally, it's really quite incredible.
If I may, I don't know what you can and can't share, but what can you share when it comes to like not just your vision for where you're taking this project, but anything that we don't already know that you can share that may be coming, if it's allowed. So up to you.
Well, I feel like I can now because I just saw an ad that had it in there. So we've listen, we started this thing in January, um, and we started it with our systems, our full systems, and then we launched this here, the pyramid, and it wasn't long after that we launched the cube, and so our R&D department is going, full speed ahead, nonstop. We have so many cool ideas, and I won't get into all of them. Some of you have heard we have a smartwatch coming out very soon that we've managed to work a piece of the technology into, which is super awesome. Um, but you might be able to kind of figure out that we have a cube and a pyramid, and you might see sometime soon something that we may or may not call the sphere, which is pretty darn cool. And I suspect that you guys will be seeing it shortly in some of our ads and whatnot. But yeah, we're working through the process. It's super exciting. It is one of the coolest things that I've ever seen, and I think that everybody's gonna love it.
I think the shapes themselves are simple but powerful. When it comes to a pyramid, there's a lot of meaning behind that, especially this one specifically because it's in the direct proportions at a smaller scale of the Pyramid of Giza, if I got that correct. And then you got the cube, which is just amazing. But again, it's all geometry and it's all based on geometry. And I find that to be amazing because now it's like more geometric shapes. And maybe off camera you could share a few things that have nothing to do with this, but different types of technologies or things like that that you guys are going to be moving forward with, which is just
Yeah.
very exciting. So I want to ask you one more thing. So far, with the people you've come in contact with, tons of people all around the world now have this technology. What is one or two of, if you can remember anything off the top of your head, of things that you've seen or heard or experienced by seeing others yourself of individuals overcoming X, Y, or Z, whatever it may be?
The ones that I love, I mean, listen, we're all blown away by things that happen with sickness and so on and so forth. What I love about it is the mental clarity that it provides, and that's a really consistent theme because everybody that experiences it, seems to have an inner growth. Um, so for me, that is obviously nobody likes death and paralysis and all that stuff, but we've got all that stuff well documented through numerous testimonials of people that have gone through some pretty terrible things that have been managed to survive, and not go through life altering circumstances. But for me to be able to sit in front of this and hear people talk about how it's changed their lives, mentally, is really cool because again, not to talk about disease and viruses and stuff like that, but personal growth. I mean, if you can start here and move to here, the sky's the limit. And I love hearing people talk about the power of the energy and how it makes them feel. And so, well, I'll tell you, my wife is a goer. Like she just vibrates from the inside out. She has so much energy, to the point where she has a hard time calming herself. And when she comes here to the office, I put her in the chair, and she's almost asleep in 5 minutes. She's out cold in 10. Right? It's like the only thing that calms her and settles her, and I love that. Right? And the interesting thing for me is I have a desk inside of our 32 unit. I sit in there and I get amped right up, right? My voice gets higher. I start speaking faster, a lot more passion, and so it's almost like the technology has an intelligence that it knows what I need and it knows what she needs, right? And that just goes back to the affirmations, right? She's
Yeah.
receiving what she needs, and I'm receiving what I need. But that to me is a special part, and that's what I love hearing is are the stories about how it's improved people's outlook and how that improved outlook has improved their lives.
It's amazing. And on the topic of scientific research, I know that there's some right now on the website that people can find. Is there anything that people can look forward to without sharing too much, of course, but anything that you can share of upcoming breakthroughs, upcoming research that people will be able to see?
Yeah, so we've just completed some research that is very, I'm very excited to release it. It hasn't been published yet, so I won't get too much into it. But it basically it uses the doctor the doctor who's conducting the research uses cells from inside the cheek, and he measures the effects of the technology in the cells both before and after, and what we're seeing in the increase of energy before and after a very short period of time is quite considerable. So I'll leave that to the scientists to get into and really explain, but what we're finding is that what we've been preaching is being backed up with real scientific data now, not just testimonials and not just to take away from testimonials, because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, but to be able to have the science showing what we've all believed for so long is incredible. And I'm really excited for it to come out. And it won't be long now. So
Awesome. And
yeah.
hopefully I can interview that doctor and scientist as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had those chats, so that's on its way.
Awesome. Well, Jarrod, I'll ask you to leave us with one thing. If there's a message that you have for everybody watching, what would that message be on any front, really? Whatever you want to close it up with.
Can I swear?
You can do whatever you want.
Life is hard, dude, and I know this more than anybody. It sucks, dude, and it beats you down. And you always have a choice. You either get beat down and you let people walk all over you, and you wallow in self-pity, and you let life destroy you, or you say, fuck you, not me, not today. I'm better than that. And you move forward. And I'll tell you from experience, even though it's happened so many times from experience, it always gets better. If you believe it gets better, we'll get better. Don't be a pussy. Get better.
I love it. I love it. Jarrod, thank you very much for your time. I look forward to
Thank
seeing
you.
you soon. And for everybody watching, there's a link in the description below, or you could simply go to thelightsystems.com in plural. That's thelightsystems.com. Check out the merch, check out the devices. And again, the links are in the description below. Jarrod, love you. Thank you. And we will
Awesome.
be
Love
in
you too,
touch.
brother.
All right.
Fantastic. See you guys.